What? I married a billionaire? One unforgettable night reveals the truth about our love. Hello, let's start another beautiful story. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's go. Emma Walker's head throbbed as consciousness crept in. The silk sheets beneath her fingers far too luxurious to be her own. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a view of Manhattan that would have cost her a year's salary. But it wasn't the opulent hotel suite that made her heart stop. It was the wedding dress draped over a nearby chair. Her hands trembled as she reached for her left hand. There it was, a diamond ring that could have paid off her student loans 10 times over. The events of the previous night remained frustratingly out of reach, like trying to grab smoke with her bare hands. "You're awake." The voice, deep and controlled, came from the doorway. Liam Kensington stood there, every inch the billionaire CEO in his tailored suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. Only the slight shadow under his steel-grey eyes hinted at their shared night of... What exactly? What happened? Emma managed to ask, clutching the sheets closer. "Why am I married to me?" Liam's expression remained impassive as he crossed the room, each step measured and precise. He placed a leather folder on the bed beside her. "It's quite simple. We had a mutual agreement. This contract outlines the terms." Emma stared at the folder as if it might bite her. "Contract? 6 months. Liam's voice was clinical, detached. "We maintain the appearance of a happy marriage. You get access to resources that will advance your career, and I get the stability my board of directors demands. After that, we go our separate ways, clean, simple, profitable." But nothing about this felt clean or simple. As Emma's fingers brushed against the contract, a fragment of memory flashed through her mind. Liam's laugh, warm and genuine, so different from his current corporate mask. The scent of champagne. His hands, gentle on her waist as they danced, under crystal chandeliers. She swallowed hard. "I don't remember agreeing to this." Something flickered in Liam's eyes. Concern? Fear? But it vanished so quickly Emma wondered if she'd imagined it. "The contract explains everything," he said, turning toward the door. "Your signature is all we need to proceed." "And if I refuse?" Liam paused, his back to her. For a moment his shoulders tensed, and Emma caught another glimpse of something, a crack in his perfect facade. Then it was gone. "Read the contract, Ms. Walker." His use of her maiden name felt like a slap. "You'll find it's in both our best interests to proceed as planned." The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Emma alone with a contract, a wedding ring, and the nagging sensation that there was far more to last night than Liam Kensington wanted her to remember. She closed her eyes, trying to force the memories to surface. Music, dancing, the New York skyline spinning as she laughed, and Liam. God, Liam had been different. His smile had reached his eyes, transforming his entire face. He'd looked at her like she meant something. Emma's eyes snapped open. Whatever game Liam Kensington was playing, whatever really happened last night, she was going to find out the truth, even if it meant signing his precious contract and diving straight into the lion's den. She reached for her phone, finding it in her clutch beside the bed. No service, of course. Her fingers trembled as she got up, the plush carpet soft beneath her feet. In the bathroom mirror, she hardly recognized herself. Hair tousled, makeup smudged, wearing what appeared to be one of Liam's dress shirts over her underwear. "What did you do, Emma?" she whispered to her reflection. But as she splashed water on her face, another memory surfaced. Liam's voice, soft and vulnerable in the darkness. "Promise me you won't forget," he'd said. "Promise me you'll remember." This was real. Emma gripped the marble counter, her knuckles white. Liam Kensington might think he could control this situation with his contracts and his cold demeanor. But she wasn't going to make it easy for him. Something happened last night. Something that made the untouchable CEO let his guard down, and she was going to figure out what it was, even if it meant playing along with his charade. She straightened up, squaring her shoulders. Time to face her new husband and find out exactly what kind of game they were really playing. For someone who just acquired a wife, Liam Kensington seemed remarkably intent on avoiding her. Emma spent the next 3 hours alone in the suite, her attempts to leave thwarted by a polite but firm security team stationed outside. By the time Liam finally returned, she'd progressed from confusion to anger, to a cold, calculated determination. "Are you done holding me prisoner?" She stood by the window, still wearing his dress shirt, a detail that didn't escape his notice, judging by the slight tightening of his jaw. "You're free to go whenever you like," Liam replied, setting his briefcase on the desk. "Once you sign." "The contract? Blackmail doesn't suit you, Mr. Kensington. Neither does melodrama, Mrs. Kensington." The name hit her like a physical blow. Emma turned back to the window, using the reflection to study him as he moved around the room. Even now, something about his presence made her pulse quicken. Another fragment of memory surfaced, his hands cupping her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks, as he whispered something she couldn't quite remember. "The contract," she said finally. "What exactly does it require?" Liam's reflection paused. 6 months of marriage, public appearances together, sharing my penthouse to maintain appearances. In return, you get access to my connections in the advertising world, plus a considerable settlement when we divorce. And what do you get? His eyes met hers in the reflection. The board of directors has made it clear they want stability before approving the Morrison merger. A wife, a settled domestic life. It presents the right image. "So I'm just a prop for your corporate theater?" Something flickered across his face. Pain? Regret? But his voice remained steady. "You're a smart businesswoman, Emma. This is a business arrangement that benefits us both." Emma turned to face him, crossing her arms. "And last night? Was that business too?" Liam went completely still. For a moment, the mask slipped, and Emma caught a glimpse of raw vulnerability that stole her breath. Then it was gone, replaced by that infuriating corporate calm. "Last night was complicated," he said carefully. "We had both been drinking, things were said, decisions were made. This contract gives us both a way to move forward professionally." "Oh, you're lying." The words came out before she could stop them. His eyebrows rose. "Excuse me?" "You're lying," Emma repeated, stepping closer. "I may not remember everything, but I remember enough. You weren't this robot last night. You were real, human, you laughed. God, you have a beautiful laugh when it's genuine. So what happened? What are you so afraid of?" "You don't know me," Liam snapped, and for the first time real emotion colored his voice. "One night of whatever you think you remember doesn't change that." "Then why marry me at all? Why not hire an actress? Pay someone to play the part?" "Because it had to be you." The words exploded from him, shocking them both. Liam ran a hand through his hair, disturbing its perfect style. "It had to be. It doesn't matter. The contract is simple. 6 months, public appearances, separate bedrooms. Then we both get what we want." "What if what I want is the truth?" Liam's laugh was bitter. "The truth? The truth is that emotions complicate things. They cloud judgment, compromise decisions. I built my empire on logic, on control. I'm not about to let—" He stopped abruptly. "Let what?" Emma pressed. "Let yourself feel something." He turned away, but not before she saw the pain in his eyes. "Your clothes are in the closet. A car will take you wherever you want to go once you've signed. Take the day to think about it. And if I say no—" Liam paused at the door. "Then we both lose something valuable. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice your career's greatest opportunity to spite me?" The door closed behind him with a soft click, Emma sank onto the bed, her hands shaking. The contract sat on the nightstand, innocent and threatening all at once. But it wasn't the legal document that troubled her. It was the way Liam's voice had cracked when he said, "It had to be you." She reached for her phone again, relieved to find the signal restored. Sophie's number was first on her speed dial. "Emma, oh my God, where have you been? I've been worried sick since you disappeared from the gala last night." "Sophie?" Emma took a deep breath. "I need you to tell me everything you remember about last night, and I mean everything." There was a long pause on the other end. "Oh, honey," Sophie said finally, "what exactly do you remember about Liam Kensington's speech?" In subsequent chapters will continue the story, each maintaining the 1,100 word length requirement, building tension and developing the relationship between Emma and Liam while exploring their individual character arcs and the mystery of their wedding night. The speech! Emma's fingers tightened around her phone. What speech? Sophie's laugh was tinged with disbelief. "You really don't remember? It was the highlight of the entire charity gala. Liam Kensington, New York's most eligible bachelor, gets up to make his usual corporate donation speech, but instead," she paused dramatically, "instead, he talks about you." Emma sank deeper into the hotel suite's plush armchair. "About me? But I barely knew him before last night. We'd only met at a few industry events." "Oh, honey, that's not how he told it. He talked about the first time he saw you at the Anderson Agency pitch meeting last spring. Said you were the only person who ever dared to tell him his marketing strategy was, and I quote, completely tone-deaf to modern consumers." A memory stirred. Liam's face across a conference table, that first flash of genuine surprise breaking through his corporate mask. I remember that meeting. His team was furious, but he just smiled. Exactly. He talked about how that moment changed everything, how he kept finding excuses to attend meetings where you'd be presenting, how he admired your passion, your brilliance, your refusal to back down even when everyone else was too intimidated by his reputation to speak up. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. "Sophie, this doesn't make sense. If he felt that way, why is he acting so cold now? Why this contract?" "That's the thing," Sophie's voice softened. "After the speech, when he finally worked up the courage to approach you, Emma, I've never seen two people look at each other like that. You danced for hours. He never took his eyes off you. And then what? Then his assistant, that intense woman with the red hair, came running in. Something about his father and the company. Liam went white as a sheet. You both disappeared after that. Next thing I knew, you weren't answering your phone, and rumors were flying about a midnight wedding at the Kensington estate." Emma closed, her eyes, fragments of memory flooding back. Liam's face, devastated by whatever news he'd received. His father, Richard Kensington, making some sort of threat, and Liam turning to her, desperate, saying something about the only way to stop it. A knock at the door made her jump. "I have to go," she whispered to Sophie. "Call you back." "Emma, wait, there's something else you should know about Richard Kensington." The call ended as Liam's assistant, Regina, Emma now remembered, stepped into the suite. "Mrs. Kensington," she said, her tone clipped, "the car is ready to take you to the penthouse. Mr. Kensington asks that you make yourself comfortable there while he handles some pressing business matters." Emma stood, still wearing Liam's shirt, over her underwear. "I'll need my clothes from my apartment, already taken care of." Regina gestured to a rack of designer clothing that definitely hadn't been there an hour ago. "Your sizes were provided by your friend Sophie. The penthouse has been fully stocked with everything you might need." "How efficient," Emma muttered, examining a dress that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Tell me, Regina, does Liam always plan his spontaneous wedding so thoroughly?" Something like sympathy flickered in the assistant's eyes. Mr. Kensington, he's not always what he seems. Sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves become our prison." Before Emma could process that cryptic statement, Regina's professional mask snapped back into place. "The contract is on the desk, awaiting your signature. The car leaves in 30 minutes. Left alone again, Emma moved to the desk where the leather folder sat like a ticking bomb. Her hand trembled as she opened it, but it wasn't the legal language that caught her eye. It was a handwritten note that fluttered to the floor. The paper was expensive, the handwriting elegant but rushed. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I've already failed you. Everything I said last night was true, but by morning, truth will be our greatest enemy. Sign the contract, please. It's the only way I can protect you from what's coming. L." Emma read the note 3 times, her mind racing. Protect her? From what? She thought of Richard Kensington's reputation, ruthless, cunning, willing to destroy anyone who stood in his way. The way Liam's face had changed when his name was mentioned. With sudden clarity, Emma knew what she had to do. She reached for the contract and signed with a flourish, adding her own note beneath Liam's. "I don't need protection, I need the truth, and I'm going to find it, with or without your help." In the elevator down to the waiting car, Emma caught her reflection. In the mirrored walls, she barely recognized herself in the elegant designer dress, her hair swept up in a sophisticated twist. But her eyes were the same, determined, fierce, ready for battle. Liam Kensington thought he could keep her in the dark, use her as a pawn in whatever game he was playing with his father. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He'd chosen a woman who never backed down from a challenge. And if his speech last night was any indication, that's exactly why he'd fallen for her in the first place. The car door opened onto the bustling Manhattan street. As Emma slid into the leather interior, her phone buzzed with a text from Sophie. "Found something about Richard Kensington. Be careful. Some secrets are meant to stay buried." Emma smiled grimly as the car pulled away from the curb. Buried secrets had never stopped her before, and they certainly weren't going to stop her now. The penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a sleek glass tower overlooking Central Park. Emma stood in the marble foyer, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that made her feel like she was floating above the city. Everything was pristine, modern, coldly beautiful, just like its owner. "Your biometrics have been added to the security system," Regina explained, leading her through the space. "Mr. Kensington's private office on the upper level is restricted access, but everything else is at your disposal." "How considerate," Emma murmured, noting the careful way Regina avoided mentioning sleeping arrangements. "And where is my husband now?" "Emergency board meeting." Regina checked her tablet. "He'll return for dinner. The chef will serve at 8. Of course he had a chef. Emma waited until Regina's clicking heels faded into the elevator before beginning her exploration. The lower level was a masterpiece of contemporary design, all clean lines and muted colors, with strategic splashes of blue that matched Liam's eyes. Everything felt carefully curated, like a museum exhibit of the perfect life. Too perfect. In the kitchen, she found a stack of newspapers from the past week. The headlines jumped out at her. Kensington Corp merger faces opposition. Richard Kensington returns from Europe. Board questions leadership transition plan. Her phone buzzed with Sophie's promised information. Richard tried to force Liam out 6 months ago, something about moral character concerns. Board sided with Liam, but rumor is Richard's been gathering ammunition for round 2. Emma frowned, pieces clicking into place. A sudden marriage to a respectable businesswoman would certainly address moral character concerns. But why her specifically? And what had changed last night to make it so urgent? The sound of the elevator interrupted her thoughts. Heavy footsteps approached, too heavy for Regina's delicate stride. Emma's heart raced as she turned to face the doorway. Liam stood there, his tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. He looked exhausted, the perfect corporate mask slipping just enough to show the strain underneath. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You signed," he said finally, noticing the contract on the counter. "I did." Emma met his gaze steadily. "Though your note raised more questions than answers." Liam tensed. "The note was a moment of weakness. Like your speech at the gala?" His eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine reaction she'd seen since waking up married. "You remember?" Sophie filled in some blanks. Emma stepped closer, noting how he fought the urge to step back. "Why didn't you tell me about the speech this morning? About all those meetings you orchestrated just to see me?" "It doesn't matter now, doesn't it? Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you spent months finding excuses to be near me, then finally confessed your feelings in front of half of New York's elite, only to wake up the next morning pretending none of it was real." She took another step. "What happened after that speech, Liam? What did your father say that changed everything?" "Don't." His voice was rough. "Please, Emma, don't ask questions you don't want answered." "But I do want answers. I want to know why the man who supposedly fell for my determination to speak truth to power is now asking me to play along with a lie." Liam moved suddenly, closing the distance between them. This close, she could see the battle raging behind his eyes. Some lies protect people we care about, and some truths set us free. Emma reached up, touching his cheek gently. "Like the truth that you're trembling right now." He jerked away as if burned, but not before she felt his slight lean into her touch. "I have a meeting in Dubai next week," he said, his voice carefully controlled again. "You'll need to accompany me. Regina will handle the arrangements." "Running away already? Maintaining appearances?" He straightened his tie. "The board needs to see a united front." "And what about what I need to see?" Emma challenged. "Because right now, all I see is a man so scared of feeling something real that he's hiding behind contracts and corporate obligations." Something dangerous flashed in Liam's eyes. He moved toward her again, this time backing her against the counter. "You want to see something real?" His voice was low, intense. "How about the fact that every time you challenge me, every time you push past my defenses with those brilliant, beautiful eyes, I forget every reason why this has to stay professional?" Emma's breath caught. "Then stop fighting it." "I can't." The words were agonized. "Because the moment I let myself feel everything I felt last night, the moment I let myself love you the way I desperately want to, that's the moment I lose everything, including you." Before Emma could respond, his phone buzzed. The spell broke. Liam stepped back, pulling his corporate mask back on like armor. "Dinner's at 8, he said stiffly. "Try to get some rest before then. Dubai will be challenging." He was gone before she could respond, leaving her alone in the pristine kitchen that suddenly felt too large, too empty. Emma's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. "Sophie? That information about Richard Kensington, I need everything you can find, especially anything from 6 months ago." She paused, watching the sun set over the city through those endless windows. "And Sophie, see what you can dig up about Liam's mother. I have a feeling she's the key to all of this." The sky blazed orange and gold, painting shadows across the perfect white walls. Somewhere in this tower of glass and secrets, Liam was fighting his own battles. But Emma had never been one to wait for rescue. If truth was their enemy, then truth would be her weapon. She just hoped they'd both survive the fallout when all those carefully buried secrets finally came to light. 8 o'clock arrived with military precision, announced by the soft chime of the elevator. Emma had spent the intervening hours exploring every inch of the penthouse she was allowed to access, searching for clues about the man she'd married. But Liam's space was like Liam himself, beautifully curated, deliberately impersonal, revealing, nothing while suggesting depths carefully hidden from view. The only exception was a small silver frame, tucked away in a corner of the living room. A woman with Liam's steel-grey eyes smiled at the camera, her arms wrapped around a young boy whose laughter seemed to leap from the photograph. Emma was still holding it when Liam entered. "My mother," he said quietly, making her jump. "Caroline." Emma set the photo down carefully. "She's beautiful. You have her eyes." Had. The word fell like a stone between them. "She died when I was 12. Before Emma could respond, the chef appeared to announce dinner was served. They moved to the dining room in silence, the city lights twinkling through the windows like earthbound stars. Emma's phone buzzed in her lap as they sat down. Sophie's message made her breath catch. "Found it. Caroline Kensington's death ruled accident, car crash in the Hamptons." But get this, 6 months ago, Richard's former assistant tried to leak documents suggesting it wasn't an accident. Assistant disappeared next day, all records erased. That's when Richard tried to force Liam out. "Everything all right?" Liam's voice cut through her thoughts. Emma looked up to find him studying her, concern briefly overtaking his usual guard. "Just work," she lied, slipping the phone away. "The Anderson campaign won't manage itself." "Ah, yes, the campaign where you first called my strategy tone-deaf." The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You never did apologize for that." "I never apologize for telling the truth." Something darkened in his eyes. "Truth is a luxury some of us can't afford." "Because of your father." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Liam's hand tightened around his wine glass. "We're not discussing Richard." "Why not? He's the reason we're here, isn't he? The reason you needed a wife so suddenly?" Emma leaned forward. "What did he threaten you with, Liam? What changed after your speech at the gala?" "Emma, please. Was it about your mother?" The wine glass shattered in Liam's hand. They both stared at the spreading red stain, at the tiny beads of blood where glass had cut skin. Then Liam was up, striding to the kitchen. Emma followed, ignoring his tense shoulders, his attempt to maintain distance. "Let me help," she said softly, taking his bleeding hand in hers. He didn't resist as she ran it under cool water, carefully checking for embedded glass. "It wasn't an accident." His voice was so low she almost missed it. "The crash. I've always known, but I could never prove it. Then 6 months ago, evidence surfaced. Richard made it disappear, along with the person who found it." Emma's heart thundered as Sophie's message clicked into place. "The assistant?" Liam's laugh was bitter. "Gloria Chen. She'd worked for Richard for 20 years, found something in the old files. Then suddenly she's gone, her entire life erased. And Richard's threatening to destroy everything I've built unless I step down quietly." "But you didn't step down." "No." His hand flexed under hers. "I fought back, won the board's support. But Richard, he's patient, calculating. He's been gathering ammunition, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And last night was that moment." Liam pulled away, but not before Emma saw the pain etched across his face. "Last night I forgot myself. Let myself believe I could have something real, something good. Then Richard showed up at the gala with proof that would destroy not just me but everyone I care about, everyone who helped me stand against him. So you married me to protect them." The pieces were falling into place. A respectable marriage, a stable image to keep the board's support. "I married you because I love you." The words hung in the air between them, raw and real and terrifying. Liam looked as shocked to have said them as Emma was to hear them. "I've loved you since that first meeting," he continued, his voice rough. "Your brilliance, your courage, your unflinching honesty. Everything I wished I could be if I wasn't trapped in this web of lies and secrets. Last night, watching you dance, hearing you laugh, I let myself believe we could have a chance. Then Richard reminded me that love is a weakness he can exploit. Emma stepped closer, taking his injured hand again. Love isn't weakness, Liam. It's strength. Let me help you fight him. I can't. He pulled away again, but not before she saw the tears he was fighting. I can't watch him destroy another person I love. Please, Emma, just play your part. Stay safe. That's all I ask. He was gone before she could respond, disappearing up the stairs to his restricted office. Emma stood in the kitchen, surrounded by evidence of their ruined dinner, her mind racing. Her phone buzzed again. Sophie had sent an address. Gloria Chen's last known residence. Apartment's been empty since she disappeared. But Super says he kept her stuff in storage. Still want to know what's buried? Emma looked up at the stairs, where Liam had vanished, thought of the pain in his voice when he spoke of his mother, of the love he was trying to deny to keep her safe. I'm in, she texted back, tomorrow morning, and Sophie, thank you for believing in me. Always, came the reply. Besides, you're not the only one tired of men thinking they have to protect us from the truth. Emma smiled, touching the wedding ring she'd almost forgotten was there. Liam thought he was protecting her by keeping her in the dark, but he'd fallen in love with her because she never backed down from a fight. It was time to show him that love wasn't their weakness. It was their greatest weapon against the darkness Richard had created. The storage unit smelled of dust and forgotten things. Emma followed the building superintendent down a narrow hallway, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead like nervous witnesses. Ain't supposed to keep tenants' stuff this long, the super muttered, fumbling with his keys. But Ms. Chen, she was different. Always kind, helped my kid with his math homework, then poof, gone without a word. Felt wrong to toss her things. The lock clicked open, revealing a small room packed with cardboard boxes. Sophie sneezed beside Emma, waving away dust. We've got 2 hours before the Dubai trip preparation meeting, Sophie reminded her. Whatever we're looking for, we need to find it fast. Emma nodded, already pulling boxes open. Gloria Chen's life lay before them in careful layers. Photo albums, kitchen supplies, winter clothes still wrapped in dry cleaning plastic. Everything meticulously organized, labeled with precise handwriting. Look for anything work-related, Emma directed, pushing deeper into the unit. Files, notebooks, USB drives. Sophie's voice was strange. I think I found something. She held up a small red notebook, its cover unmarked except for a single embossed letter, K. Emma's hands trembled as she opened it. The first page bore a date from 23 years ago, the year Caroline Kensington died. But it wasn't Gloria's precise handwriting that filled these pages. These are Caroline's notes, Emma breathed, scanning the elegant script. Listen to this. Ours business partners concerned about offshore accounts, unusual transactions through Cayman Shell Corps, must verify sources before board meeting. Sophie peered over her shoulder. Caroline was investigating Richard. She was the CFO before she died. Look, there are account numbers, dates, names. Emma flipped through pages rapidly. She was building a case against him, proving he was embezzling through fake companies. And then she had her accident. Gloria must have found this when she was digitizing old files. Emma tucked the notebook into her bag. This is what Richard's been hiding all these years. This is why... The storage unit door slammed shut. Both women spun around. Through the small window, they could see Regina's face, her expression grim. Ms. Walker, her voice came through muffled. Mr. Kensington requests your immediate return, alone. Emma's heart raced. Regina, please, you know what Richard did. You must have suspected. What I know, Regina cut in, is that loyalty keeps people alive. Make this easy on yourself. Return to the penthouse now, and perhaps we can prevent history from repeating itself. Sophie grabbed Emma's arm. There's another way out. Through the ventilation shaft. I saw it when we came in. Emma hesitated, Caroline's notebook burning in her bag. Sophie, if they catch you, they won't. Sophie's smile was fierce. I'll create a distraction. Get that notebook to Liam. He deserves to know the truth about his mother. Before Emma could protest, Sophie was shoving a file box against the wall, climbing up to reach the vent. The metal grate came loose with a screech. Miss Walker! Regina's voice hardened. Security is on their way. Don't make this worse than it needs to be. Emma watched Sophie disappear into the vent, then squared her shoulders and opened the door. Regina's face softened slightly. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand perfectly. Emma met her gaze steadily. You're not the only one who's loyal to Liam. The ride back to the penthouse was silent, tense. Emma clutched her bag close, feeling the notebook's weight like an anchor, or perhaps a bomb. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse living room. Liam stood at the windows, his back to her, a tumbler of amber liquid in his hand. You followed me. I protect what's mine. His voice was cold, controlled, too controlled, like Richard protected his secrets. Liam turned then, and Emma's breath caught. His face was devastated, haunted. You could have been killed. Do you understand that? If Richard's people had found you instead of Regina. No, they didn't. Emma stepped closer. Because you sent Regina to watch me, to protect me, just like you're trying to protect everyone else. Emma, she pulled out the notebook. Your mother was trying to expose him. She found evidence of his crimes, and he killed her for it. That's what Gloria Chen discovered 6 months ago. Liam stared at the notebook like it might bite him. Where did you... Gloria kept everything, every piece of evidence your mother collected. It's all here, Liam. The proof you need to stop him. His hands shook as he took the notebook. If he finds out you have this, then we'll face him together. Emma touched his cheek gently. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. For a moment she thought he might break, might let himself lean into her touch, accept her help, her love. Then his phone buzzed. The message drained all color from his face. Liam? What is it? He turned the phone so she could see the photo. Sophie's car wrapped around a tree, smoke rising from the crumpled hood. No injuries reported, he read woodenly. This time, next time, she won't be so lucky. The notebook for your friend's safety. You have 1 hour to deliver it to the Kensington Corp lobby. Emma's legs gave out. Liam caught her, holding her close as she shook. I'm so sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry, Emma. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. She clutched his shirt, breathing in his scent, feeling his heart race against hers. We can't give him the notebook. Your mother died for this truth. And I won't let anyone else die for it. Liam pulled back, his eyes fierce. Especially, not you. There has to be another way. He was quiet for a long moment, still holding her. Maybe there is. But you're not going to like it. Emma looked up at him, saw the dangerous glint in his eyes. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to stop playing defense. His jaw set in a hard line. Richard wants to meet? Fine. But this time, we're doing it my way. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. In less than an hour, they would face Richard Kensington with nothing but a decades-old notebook and a desperate plan. Emma squeezed Liam's hand. Together? His fingers, laced with hers, warm and sure. Together. The word felt like a promise, or perhaps a prayer. The Kensington Corp lobby was deserted at this hour, their footsteps echoing off marble and glass. Security cameras tracked their movement, red lights blinking like hungry eyes in the darkness. Emma clutched the notebook to her chest, her other hand warm in Liam's grip. Remember the plan, he murmured, guiding her toward the executive elevator. No matter what happens, no matter what he says. I know. She squeezed his hand. Trust me. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, tense. Emma studied their reflection in the polished doors. Liam in his impeccable suit, herself still in the clothes she'd worn to the storage unit. They looked like what they were, a couple thrown together by circumstance, united by secrets and survival. The doors opened onto Richard Kensington's domain. The man himself stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, a crystal tumbler in his manicured, a hand. He turned as they entered, his smile as sharp as broken glass. The happy couple. His voice was smooth, cultured, nothing like the monster Emma had imagined. Though I must say, daughter-in-law, you've had quite an adventurous first day of marriage. Where's Sophie? Emma demanded. Perfectly safe, I assure you. The accident was merely educational. Richard set his glass down, extending his hand. Now I believe you have something of mine. It was never yours. Liam's voice was cold. It was Mom's. Everything in this notebook, the evidence she gathered, the crimes she uncovered. Crimes? Richard laughed. Your mother was unstable. Liam, paranoid. Seeing conspiracies where there were only standard business practices. Standard business practices don't usually end in murder. Careful, son. Richard's smile vanished. Accidents happen so easily in our world. Just ask your friend Sophie. Emma stepped forward, holding out the notebook. Here, take it. Just leave Sophie alone. Emma, no. Liam started. It's okay. She met Richard's eyes as he took the notebook. It's just paper, after all. Richard flipped through the pages, his expression darkening. Where are the account numbers, the transaction records? The what? Emma's voice was innocent. The evidence! Richard's composure cracked. The lists she made, the proof she claimed to have. Where is it? Oh, those! Emma smiled, cold and sharp. They're already with the FBI. The notebook hit the floor. You're bluffing. Am I? She pulled out her phone, showing him the email timestamp. Sophie wasn't heading home after the storage unit. She was meeting with federal agents. Everything Caroline found, everything Gloria Chen preserved, it's all in their hands now. You stupid girl. Richard's hand shot out, grabbing her arm. Do you have any idea what you've done? Let her go. Liam's voice was deadly quiet. Or what? You'll choose her over your own family? Over everything I built? You didn't build anything. Liam stepped closer, his eyes burning. You stole, you killed, you destroyed everyone who tried to expose your crimes, including my mother, but you made one crucial mistake. And what's that? You thought love was weakness. Emma twisted free of Richard's grip. But love is what made Caroline keep fighting. Love is what made Gloria preserve the evidence. And love is what made Liam strong enough to finally stand up to you. As if on cue, the elevator dinged. Regina stepped out, followed by two stern-faced men in dark suits. Mr. Richard Kensington. One of them pulled out a badge. FBI. We have some questions about offshore accounts and the disappearance of Gloria Chen. This is absurd. Richard backed away. You have no proof. Actually, Regina spoke up, her voice steady, we have everything. I've worked for you for 15 years, Mr. Kensington, watching, waiting, gathering evidence. For Caroline, for Gloria, for everyone you've hurt. You, Richard's face contorted, you betrayed me? No, sir. I stayed loyal to the company, to its true leader. She nodded at Liam. The son who chose truth over power, love over fear. The FBI agents moved forward, reading Richard his rights. He didn't resist, his eyes locked on Liam. You'll regret this, he hissed. Everything you think you've won, it'll turn to ash. No, father. Liam's voice was gentle, almost sad. The only thing turning to ash is the empire of lies you built. It's over. They watched in silence as the agents led Richard away. The moment the elevator doors closed, Emma's phone rang. "Sophie," she answered breathlessly. "Are you okay?" "Perfect dramatic timing, right?" Sophie laughed. "The FBI agent said I did great. Very convincing crash scene, though I think I owe Regina a thank you for the stunt driving lessons." Emma sagged against Liam in relief. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "I can't believe you planned all this," she murmured into his chest. "You, Regina, Sophie. I had to protect you." His voice rumbled against her ear. "But you showed me there's a difference between protection and control, between fear and love." She looked up at him, seeing no trace of the cold mask he'd worn for so long. "What happens now?" "Now?" Liam smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "Now we do what we should have done last night. We start over, together, for real this time. No more contracts? No more contracts." He cupped her face. In his hands, just love, just truth, just us. The sun was rising over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of hope and new beginnings. In the distance, police lights flashed as Richard Kensington faced the consequences of his crimes. But up here, in this moment, there was only Emma and Liam, and the love they'd fought so hard to protect. "Your mother would be proud," Emma whispered. Liam's kiss was soft, reverent, full of promises. "She would have loved you," he murmured against her lips, "almost as much as I do." The morning. Light streamed through the windows, casting their shadows on the wall. Two figures, once separate, now intertwined. The notebook lay forgotten on the floor, its secrets finally revealed, its purpose fulfilled. Sometimes, Emma realized, the greatest love stories aren't about finding each other. They're about choosing each other again and again, even when the world conspires to tear you apart. She and Liam had chosen each other in the darkness. Now it was time to see what their love could build in the light. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of press statements, police interviews, and board meetings. Emma watched from the sidelines as Liam navigated the chaos with a grace she hadn't known he possessed, his corporate mask now replaced by genuine leadership. "The board's response has been overwhelmingly positive," Regina reported, her tablet displaying a cascade of supportive messages. "They're impressed by how you handled the situation. Several members have already pledged their continued support for the Morrison merger." "And the press?" Emma asked, scanning the headlines flooding her phone. "Kensington Corp heir exposes decades of corruption. Justice for Caroline. Son brings down father's criminal empire." They're painting Liam as the hero. Regina's lips curved slightly. For once, the media got it right. Emma's phone buzzed. With a text from Sophie. "Police found Gloria Chen. She's alive, living under an assumed name in Vancouver. They're bringing her home." Relief flooded through her. Another life Richard hadn't managed to destroy. She looked up to share the news with Liam, only to find him already watching her, his eyes soft with an emotion that made her heart skip. "I need to borrow my wife," he told Regina, extending his hand to Emma. "The Dubai team can wait." Regina's smile was knowing. "Of course, Mr. Kensington. I'll reschedule the meeting for tomorrow." The moment the elevator doors closed behind them, Liam pulled Emma close, burying his face in her hair. She felt the tension leave his body as she wrapped her arms around him. "Gloria's alive," she murmured. "She's safe." His laugh was shaky with relief. "You know what this means? She can testify. Her evidence combined with Mom's notebook and Regina's records. Richard won't be able to hurt anyone else ever again." Emma pulled back enough to see his face. The weight of decades of secrets had lifted, leaving him younger, lighter, more like the man who'd given that heartfelt speech at the gala. "How does it feel?" she asked softly. "Being free?" "Terrifying." His honesty made her smile. "I've spent so long playing a role, being what he wanted, what the company needed. I'm not sure I remember how to just be me. I like you, Emma said, reaching up to touch his cheek. The real you, the man who plans elaborate sting operations to protect the people he loves, the man who never stopped fighting for justice, for his mother, the man who looks at me like that. Like what? Like I'm your favorite mystery, the one you actually want to solve. His kiss was different this time, unhurried, explorative, full of promise. When they finally broke apart, the elevator had long since stopped at the penthouse. I have a confession, Liam said, leading her into their home. About the gala, about my speech. The one where you admitted stalking my career. Her teasing made him laugh. I had it all planned. The speech, the proposal, everything. I'd been working up the courage for months. He ran a hand through his hair, messing up its perfect style in a way that made Emma's heart flutter. But then you walked in wearing that blue dress, and all my carefully prepared words flew out the window. Everything I said, it just poured out raw, real, terrifying. And then Richard showed up, with proof that he'd orchestrated Gloria's disappearance, threatening to do the same to you if I didn't play along. Liam's jaw tightened at the memory. I panicked. Thought if I could just protect you long enough to figure out a plan. You didn't count on me being just as determined to protect you. Emma smiled, touching the ring she now wore for real, not just for show, or on Sophie being an amateur stunt driver. I definitely didn't count on falling even more in love with you while trying to push you away. He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers. These past 2 days, watching you fight for the truth, for justice, for us. I don't deserve you, Emma Walker. Good thing I didn't sign that prenup then. His startled laugh filled the penthouse, echoing off the windows that no longer felt like a glass cage. Emma had never seen him so free, so unguarded. This was the real Liam Kensington, passionate, protective, capable of both careful planning and impulsive declarations of love. About Dubai, he said, trailing kisses down her neck. I was thinking, maybe we should call it our honeymoon instead of a business trip. Emma pulled back, studying his face. What about the Morrison merger? The merger can wait. His eyes were serious now. I've spent too long putting business first, letting fear drive my decisions. I want to start our marriage the right way. Just us. No contracts, no pretense. Getting to know each other properly. Getting to know each other? Emma raised an eyebrow. Is that what they're calling it these days? His laugh was muffled against her skin, among other things. Somewhere in the city, Richard Kensington was facing the consequences of his crimes. Gloria Chen was coming home to tell her story. Caroline's truth was finally being heard. But here, in this moment, there was only this. Liam's arms around her, his heart beating steady against hers, the future stretching out before them like a blank page waiting to be filled. I love you, Emma whispered, the words feeling both new and familiar. The real you. All of you. Liam's kiss tasted like freedom, like truth, like the beginning of their real story. Outside, the sun painted Manhattan in shades of possibility, but neither of them noticed. They were too busy writing their own happy ending. You know, Emma said, watching Liam pack his suitcase with military precision, for someone who claims this is no longer a business trip, you're bringing an awful lot of suits. He looked up, catching her smirk from where she lounged on their bed. And yes, it was their bed now, the separate bedrooms arrangement abandoned along with all their other pretenses. Old habits, he admitted, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. I've never actually taken a vacation before. Never? Father didn't believe in them. His voice caught slightly on the word father, but the pain was older now, less sharp. Time away from work was time wasted. Emma rose, crossing to where he stood. With deliberate care, she removed 3 suits from his suitcase. Then let me teach you vacation packing 101. She reached for his dresser, pulling out jeans he probably didn't even remember owning. Rule 1. Comfort over corporate. The board can survive without seeing you in Tom Ford for a week. She pressed a kiss to his jaw, feeling it relax under her lips. Besides, I have plans that don't involve business attire. His eyes darkened. Do tell. A knock at the door interrupted what promised to be a very interesting conversation. Regina entered, tablet in hand, then stopped short at the sight of them. I can come back, she offered, fighting a smile. It's fine. Emma stepped back, but not before enjoying the flush creeping up Liam's neck. What's the update? Gloria Chen landed an hour ago. She's willing to testify, but she wants to meet with you first, Liam. Says she has something that belonged to your mother. Emma felt Liam tense beside her. When? She's downstairs. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Emma squeezed Liam's hand. Do you want me to? Stay, he said quickly. Please. Minutes later, they sat in the living room, watching Gloria Chen examine the photograph of Caroline that Emma had found that first night. The former assistant was smaller than Emma had imagined, but her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. You look like her, Gloria told Liam softly. Not just the eyes, the way you hold yourself, the way you fight for what's right. You knew her well, Gloria nodded. I was new at the company when she hired me. She saw something in me, took me under her wing. When she started finding discrepancies in the accounts, she trailed off, lost in memory. She was so careful, so thorough. She knew what Richard was capable of, but she couldn't let it go. The truth mattered too much. Like mother, like son, Emma murmured. Liam's hand tightened around hers. The day before the accident, Gloria continued, she gave me this. She reached into her bag, withdrawing a small wooden box. Made me promise to keep it safe until it was needed, until you were ready. Liam took the box with trembling hands. Inside lay a letter, the paper yellowed with age, and a delicate silver locket. My dearest Liam, he read, his voice rough. If you're reading this, then my worst fears have come true. But know this. Every choice I made, every risk I took, was to give you a future free from lies, to show you that truth and love are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Emma wiped tears from her cheeks as Liam continued reading. Caroline's words painted a picture of a woman determined to break the cycle of corruption, to give her son a legacy of integrity instead of wealth. The locket was my mother's. Liam's voice cracked on the final paragraphs. Inside is a picture of us from that day at the beach. Do you remember? You built a castle in the sand, and when the tide came in, you didn't cry. You just started building again, higher up the beach. That's who you are, my darling boy. Someone who builds beauty from destruction. Someone who never stops trying to make things right. Gloria quietly excused herself, leaving them alone with the echoes of Caroline's love. Emma held Liam as he wept, not the quiet tears of grief, but the deep, cleansing sobs of release. She knew, he managed finally. She knew what he might do, and she still fought, still tried to protect me. And she succeeded. Emma kissed his temple. Look at you now. Running the company with integrity, bringing truth to light, loving openly, without fear. Liam opened the locket with careful fingers. The photograph inside was faded but clear, a younger Caroline, radiant with joy, holding a small boy who grinned at the camera with total trust. Behind them, a sandcastle rose like a dream against the summer sky. I remember that day, he said softly. It was the last vacation we ever took. Father was furious, said we were wasting time, being frivolous. His smile was bittersweet. But Mom just laughed, said some things were worth more than money. She was right. Emma touched the locket gently. This is your legacy, Liam. Not the company, not the wealth. This love, this truth, this courage to build something beautiful, even when the tide comes. He was quiet for a long moment, studying the photograph. Then he reached for his abandoned suitcase, removing the remaining suits with quick, decisive movements. What are you doing? Taking your vacation advice. He smiled, and it was Caroline's smile, full of joy and possibility. I think it's time for some sandcastle building in Dubai, don't you? Emma laughed, helping him refold the casual clothes she'd selected. Sandcastles and room service? And sleeping late. He pulled her close, nuzzling her neck. And definitely nothing requiring business attire. Outside, the city hummed with life and opportunity. Gloria's testimony would ensure Richard's conviction. The company was stronger than ever, built now on truth instead of lies. And here, in this home they'd made their own, love bloomed like a flower breaking through concrete, resilient, beautiful, unstoppable. I love you, Liam whispered against her skin, the way my mother loved truth, the way the tide loves the shore, endlessly, completely, without reservation. Emma turned, in his arms, seeing in his eyes the same trust that young boy had shown the camera. Then let's go build some sandcastles, she said softly. Higher up the beach this time. His kiss tasted like promise, like future, like love, finally set free to grow in the light. Dubai glittered like a mirage rising from the desert, all gold, and glass and impossible dreams. Emma stood on their hotel suite's balcony, watching the sunset paint the Burj Khalifa in shades of rose and amber. Behind her, she could hear Liam on the phone with Regina, his voice different now, authoritative but kind, nothing like his father's cold command. No, the Morrison meeting can wait until we return, he was saying. The board understands. Yes, I'm sure. Regina, thank you for everything. Emma smiled as his arms slipped around her waist. Officially off the clock? Officially all yours. His chin rested on her shoulder, though I have to admit, I feel a bit lost. I've never been in Dubai without a schedule packed with meetings. Good thing you have an expert guide in spontaneity. Then, she turned in his arms, enjoying the way his usual perfect hair was slightly mussed from the long flight. Rule 1 of real vacations, get lost on purpose. His eyebrows rose. Get lost? Trust me. An hour later, they wandered through the winding alleys of the Al Fahidi Historical District, where Dubai's gleaming modernity gave way to preserved pieces of the past. The evening air was warm, fragrant with spices from nearby cafes. Emma watched. Liam take it all in with wonder. The traditional wind towers, the art galleries tucked into coral stone buildings, the way history and progress dance together in this remarkable city. I've been here dozens of times, he admitted, but I've never seen this part. Father always said anything old was obsolete. Your father, Emma said gently, was wrong about a lot of things. They stopped at a small cafe where the owner insisted on serving them traditional Arabic coffee and date cookies. Liam's face lit up at the first sip. This is incredible, he breathed. So different from the overpriced stuff they serve at board meetings. Sometimes the best things are hidden in plain sight. Emma touched Caroline's locket, which Liam now wore under his casual linen shirt. We just have to be willing to look. As night fell, they found themselves in a tiny art gallery. Local artists' works filled the space, but it was a particular painting that caught their attention, a child building a sandcastle while waves approached, the sky above streaked with stars. It's like your mother's photograph, Emma said softly. Liam's hand found hers. But look, in this one there's a wall of rocks protecting the castle. The builder learned from experience, adapted, grew stronger. The gallery owner, an elderly woman with kind eyes, approached them. You have good taste, she said in accented English. The artist calls it resilience. It's about building beauty even when we know it might not last forever, about the courage to create, to love, knowing that all things are temporary. "We'll take it," Liam said immediately. Later, back in their suite with the painting carefully wrapped and propped against the wall, Emma watched Liam stand at the window. The city sparkled below them, but his eyes were distant, thoughtful. "Penny for your thoughts." "I was just thinking about that painting, about resilience." He turned to her, his face open and vulnerable in a way that still made her heart skip. "All my life, I thought being strong meant being like my father, cold, controlled, never letting anyone close enough to hurt you." Emma moved to him, drawn as always to his presence. "And now? Now I understand what real strength is." His fingers traced her cheek. "It's you, challenging me in that first meeting. My mother, fighting for truth, even when she knew the cost. It's love, Emma. Love is the ultimate act of resilience. Building sandcastles even when we know the tide is coming. Building them because we know the tide is coming." He pulled her closer. "Because the joy of creation, of connection, of love, it's worth more than any guarantee of permanence." Emma rose on her tiptoes, kissing him softly. "When did you get so wise?" "I had good teachers." His smile was tender. "A mother who showed me the importance of truth. A wife who showed me the courage of love." They swayed together, dancing to music only they could hear. Outside, Dubai's lights rivaled the stars, but in their suite, the wrapped painting glowed with promise. A reminder that beauty can rise from the sand, that love can bloom in the desert, that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when we dare to get lost. "So," Emma murmured against his chest, "what other parts of Dubai have you never seen?" Liam's laugh rumbled under her cheek. "I don't know, but I can't wait to discover them with you." She pulled back enough to see his face, so different now from the cold mask he'd worn that first morning. Love had transformed him, or perhaps simply revealed who he'd been all along, a man with his mother's courage and his own capacity for joy. "First thing tomorrow," she decided. "We're going to the beach." His eyes lit up with understanding. "Sandcastle time?" "Sandcastle time." She grinned. "But this time, we're building it together, with a proper wall of rocks." Learning from experience? Learning from love. The night wrapped around them like silk, full of possibilities. Tomorrow they would build castles in the sand, explore hidden corners of the city, create memories as unique and precious as the love they'd found in each other. But for now, there was just this. Two hearts beating in sync, two souls finally free to soar, and the deep, unshakable knowledge that they had found their true home in each other's arms. The morning sun transformed Dubai's beach into a canvas of gold, the waves gentle against the shore. Emma sat cross-legged in the sand, watching Liam wade into the Persian Gulf. He moved with a freedom she'd never seen before, his usual corporate precision replaced by pure joy. "The water's perfect," he called, looking years younger in his swim trunks, his skin already taking on a sunny glow. "Come on, Mrs. Kensington. Still working on our masterpiece." She gestured to the elaborate sandcastle taking shape beside her. After 3 days in Dubai, they'd developed a rhythm. Mornings at the beach, afternoons exploring the city's hidden treasures, evenings tangled in each other's arms while planning the next day's adventures. Liam jogged back to her, dropping, down to examine their creation. "The North Tower needs reinforcement," he observed seriously, making her laugh. Who would have thought that New York's most formidable CEO would become an expert in sandcastle architecture? "Your mother would love this," Emma said softly, adding, "delicate windows to the main structure. Us being silly, breaking all your father's rules about proper behavior." She would. Liam touched the locket he hadn't taken off since Gloria gave it to them. I keep thinking about what she wrote, about building beauty from destruction. I never understood until now. Until what? Until you. He caught her hand, heedless of the sand. Until I learned that sometimes things have to fall apart before they can be rebuilt stronger, better. Emma's phone buzzed in their beach bag. A text from Regina. Richard's plea deal accepted. 20 years minimum. Gloria's testimony sealed it. Also, Morrison merger approved unanimously. Board says take all the time you need. Good news? Liam asked, noting her smile. The best. She showed him the message. It's really over. No. He pulled her close, sand and all. It's really beginning. They spent the rest of the morning perfecting their sandcastle, complete with a moat and a carefully engineered seawall. As the tide began to rise, they sat wrapped in beach towels, watching their creation face its first test. You know, Liam mused, I used to think happiness was something you earned through sacrifice and control, like my father's approval, always just out of reach, never quite enough. And now I know it's something you choose, every day, every moment. He kissed her temple, like choosing to sign a mysterious marriage contract with a beautiful, stubborn woman who saw right through my defenses. Emma laughed. As I recall, you weren't exactly thrilled with my investigative skills at first. I was terrified. His honesty still took her breath away. Not of being caught, of being known, really known the way you know me now. Their sandcastle's outer wall caught the first wave, diverting it safely around the structure. Emma felt Liam's chest swell with pride against her back. Engineering at its finest, she teased. I had an excellent partner. His arms tightened around her, in this and everything else. The buzzing of his phone interrupted the moment. Regina again, sorry to disturb, but Gloria found something else in storage. Caroline's old journals. There's a letter for Emma. They stared at the message in silence. How could she? Emma's voice cracked. She couldn't have known about me. Maybe not specifically. Liam's voice was thick with emotion, but she knew what kind of person could help heal her son's heart, break down his walls, love him back to life. The tide rose higher, waves testing their castle's defenses. Each time the water receded, their creation stood stronger, its foundations holding firm against nature's rhythms. Should we head back? Emma asked, watching another wave approach. See what the letter says. No, Liam's voice was sure. This moment, right here, right now, this is what matters. The letter will wait. The company will wait. The whole world can wait. Emma turned in his arms, sand scratching between them, completely irrelevant. Who are you, and what have you done with the man who scheduled his breaths? His laugh was free, joyous. I think you know exactly what you did to him. Destroyed all his careful plans, made him fall hopelessly, completely in love, taught him that. Some things are worth more than control. Like sandcastles, like truth. He kissed her softly, like love. And the sun climbed higher, turning the Gulf waters to diamonds. Their castle stood proud against the tide, its walls holding firm, its towers reaching for the sky. Just like them, stronger together, built on trust, ready for whatever waves might come. We should head back soon, Emma murmured, not moving an inch. We have that sunset desert safari booked. 5 more minutes, Liam whispered against her hair. Just 5 more minutes of perfect. She settled deeper into his embrace, memorizing everything about this moment, the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of the waves, the steady beat of his heart against her back. They had faced down corporate titans, exposed decades of corruption, and transformed a marriage of convenience into something rare and precious. And they were just getting started. 5 more minutes, Emma agreed, watching their castle stand, strong against another wave. Then our next adventure begins, Liam's kiss tasted of salt and sunshine and possibilities. "I love you," he murmured. "Beyond contracts, beyond fear, beyond time." The tide rose and their castle rose with it, transformed but unbroken, just like them, just like love. The New York skyline welcomed them home with a spectacular sunset, the kind that turned skyscrapers into pillars of fire. Emma stood in their penthouse, watching the city ignite, while Liam sorted through the mail that had accumulated during their week away. "It's weird," she mused. "Everything looks the same, but nothing feels the same." "Good weird or bad weird?" Liam's arms slipped around her waist, his chin finding its familiar spot on her shoulder. "Definitely good." She leaned back against him, remembering that first morning when they'd stood in this same spot as strangers bound by a contract. Now every touch, every breath felt like coming home. "Though I might miss our Dubai sandcastles. We could always build one in Central Park, start a trend. Corporate raider turned sandbox architect. The board would love that." "The board," Liam said, pressing a kiss to her neck, "can adapt, just like I did." A knock at the door interrupted their moment. Regina entered, carrying a worn leather journal tied with a faded blue ribbon. "Gloria thought you might want this right away," she said, passing it to Emma. "Caroline's last journal. The letter is marked." Emma's hands trembled as she untied the ribbon. Liam's arms tightened around her, offering silent support as she found the envelope with her name written in Caroline's elegant script. "Do you want privacy?" he asked softly. "No." Emma took his hand. Together. They settled on the couch, the city's fire painting their walls in shades of gold and crimson. The paper crackled as Emma unfolded it, aged but perfectly preserved, carrying Caroline's last message across time. "To the woman who will heal my son's heart," Emma read, her voice catching. "I write this, knowing I may not have much time left. Richard's threats grow bolder, and the evidence I've gathered puts not just me but everyone I love at risk. But I want you, whoever you are, whenever you find this, to know something about the man you've chosen to love." Liam's hand tightened around hers as she continued. "Liam has always been special. Not in the way Richard wanted, not in his hunger for power or his willingness to sacrifice others for success. No, my son's gift is his capacity for love, even though he learned too young to hide it. I've watched him bury his light under layers of armor, trying to be what his father demanded. But I've also seen how that light refuses to die. I don't know your name. I don't know when you'll read this, but I know you must be remarkable because you've done what I feared might be impossible. You've helped him remember who he really is. You've shown him that love isn't weakness, that truth isn't negotiable, that real strength lies in the courage to be known. I wish I could thank you in person for loving him, for fighting for him, for helping him build something beautiful. From the ashes of what Richard destroyed, my greatest regret is not being there to see the man my son becomes with you by his side. But my greatest joy is knowing that he found someone worthy of his heart. Take care of each other. Build castles in the sand, even knowing the tide will come. Choose love again and again, even when it's hard. And know that somewhere, somehow, I'm watching over you both with a mother's endless pride and gratitude. All my love, Caroline." Silence filled the penthouse as the sun's final rays painted their tears in gold. Liam's breath was uneven against Emma's hair. "She knew," he whispered. "Somehow she knew you'd come. She knew you'd be ready." Emma turned to face him, wiping his tears with gentle fingers. "Ready to be seen, to be loved, to be yourself." "I wouldn't have been, not without you." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "You didn't just heal my heart, Emma. You gave me the courage to use it. The city lights began to twinkle on, stars born from glass and steel. Behind them, Caroline's painting of the child building sand castles hung in pride of place, a testament to resilience and hope. "So," Emma said softly, "what do we build now?" Liam smiled, that real, unguarded smile that still made her heart skip. "Everything, anything, whatever we dream up together. Even if the tide comes in? Especially then." He pulled her close, his heart beating steady against hers, because now we know the secret, which is that love isn't about what lasts forever. It's about what's worth building anyway, worth fighting for, worth choosing every single day. Emma kissed him then, tasting joy and promise and possibility. Outside, Manhattan hummed with life and energy, but in their home, their real home, built on truth and trust and love, there was only this moment, only them. "I love you," she whispered against his lips, "beyond contracts, beyond fear, beyond time." "I love you," he answered, holding her like something precious and unbreakable. "Beyond all the castles we'll build, beyond all the tides that might come, beyond everything I ever thought love could be." The stars emerged over New York, witnesses to a story that began with a contract and ended with a truth as old as time. That real love isn't found in perfect plans or power plays, but in the courage to be vulnerable, the strength to choose each other, and the joy of building something beautiful together. Even if, especially if, the tide comes in. The end. That was a beautiful story, wasn't it? I hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your collaboration is very important to me.